Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another update in regards to Bitcoin news, as well as me covering the latest updates around strategy, MSTR stock, what my price prediction is. But before we do that, I'll be sharing the latest updates around the Bitcoin markets and share with you the latest news around different companies following the Bitcoin standard, especially with Saylor's strategy with buying Bitcoin 5 years ago, stacking sats, and we're continuing to see that it's a global race right now. Retail investors are embracing Bitcoin or studying it or buying Bitcoin, whatever is possible. Companies are buying Bitcoin. We'll go through those updates, what companies are hodling Bitcoin at this point. And eventually, we'll be seeing and hearing more about governments at the state level, strategic Bitcoin reserve buying Bitcoin, as well as other countries around the world buying Bitcoin. Now, if you're new to this channel, first off, I would really appreciate hitting the like, subscribing for more related content, where I'll also be, providing an epic video clip of Saylor at the end. But before we start, let me play a quick video clip of CEO of Coinbase, Brian, talking about how the US government will be acquiring billions of Bitcoin. Let's begin, guys.
But I think it's clear at this point that Bitcoin is a better form of money than gold. It is provably scarce, just like gold, but it's more portable and divisible. So you can actually use it. Has higher utility, I would say, and it was the best performing asset of the last 10 years. And so for store of value, I think it's going to be important for governments to hold this over time. It might start with being 1% of their reserves, but I think over time it'll come to be equal to or greater than gold reserves.
There you heard it from CEO Brian Armstrong in that we're just going to have more and more people buying Bitcoin. Let's take a look at this posting in that Jack Mallers, 21 Capital CEO, announced today that the company just bought 4,812 Bitcoin worth 458 million. It takes about several months for the company to formulate into officially becoming 21 Capital. The company started off with Tether, SoftBank, Cantor Fitzgerald, starting at like 31,000 Bitcoin. But as soon as the company converts to become 21 Capital as a corporation, it will have a HODL of close to $42,000. Let's take a look at another company, a Japanese-based company called Metaplanet, secure the future with Bitcoin. As you can see currently, Bitcoin Holdings, this company has been ramping up their total HODL, now getting close to, 7,000 Bitcoins on their balance sheet. As we look at their analytics, just diving deep where current price of Bitcoin is at 103,666%. Bitcoin yield percentage has gone up by 170% year to date. In terms of Bitcoin gain, we see that accretive appreciation. But look at the Bitcoin acquisitions. Of course, we don't see a large scale range like, strategy, but this company has been buying Bitcoin for one whole year now. In fact, over a year, at different price points, we see, it being bought, less than, 60,000, at one point at 58,000. So really, we see orange dots across the board. Yes, this is a 1 year duration. When you compare that to strategy's been buying since like 5 years ago. So there truly is no second best when it comes to a big time titan like strategy. However, we're seeing these small innovative companies hodling as much as Bitcoin as they can get in order to, return value for its shareholders. And, current share price, we're seeing Metaplanet, CEP, Cantor Fitzgerald Enterprise, 21 Capital stocks really growing because of this innovative approach. We also hear from Semler Scientific buying 174 Bitcoin worth $17.8 million dollars. Now their total HODL, getting close to that 4,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So a lot of companies are trying to raise capital at the ATM to buy more Bitcoin. Why? Because we've even heard it from the Saylor, presentation with corporations. If your company is not able to like generate, a return of like 60% with your business, then why not just hold Bitcoin instead? We've seen Bitcoin year over year grow by like 30%. So that just maximizes the return on value when cost expenditures for like maintaining a business is much higher. Let's take a look at this posting from Chris Millis. To put this into perspective, Strategy acquired more Bitcoin than the total holdings of Metaplanet, Semler Scientific, and the blockchain group combined in 1 week. So we heard about Strategy increasing the HODL, buying, over like 10,000 Bitcoins again, announced on Monday. Now currently at 568,840 Bitcoins on their treasury holdings, holding close to, now getting close to that 3% of the total Bitcoin supply. So, they're 56.88% of the way to one Nakamoto getting to that 1 million Bitcoin on their reserve. Now, no one can beat Strategy's average cost purchase price for Bitcoin, 69,000 average cost. Question is, will we ever even get to see that price point ever again? I mean, the bright side is that Strategy has been buying for the last 5 years at different prices. Dollar cost average is the name of the game. Why? Because they're getting to that one Nakamoto. Now, Bitcoin yield 15.5% achieved in the year 2025 so far. Balance sheet growth for every 1,000 Bitcoin gain, $568 million dollars just with 1,000 Bitcoin gain for every coin that's held. But when you look at how much Bitcoin's on the treasury holdings, that's why you see that balance sheet growth for every incremental change with the accretive appreciation of Bitcoin price. Saylor posts today, so far this year, MSTR's 15.5 BTC yield equates to a Bitcoin gain of $7.2 billion. I mean, this is a big time titan. This Bitcoin count. Eventually, we're going to see another comma be placed at the front. And at that point, there's not going to be any company that can really do what Strategy is doing. So when you think about it, Strategy and like BlackRock, those two, companies combined together, just two entities, hold up to more than like a million Bitcoins. So when it comes to the US government buying like a million Bitcoins, that seems very achievable in the next 5 years. But when you think about it, the longer it takes to buy Bitcoin, the higher the price it will be. So definitely at that time, Bitcoin price is going to go up even further. But definitely, we're going to hear more about the governments buying up Bitcoin, especially with Lummis's act, Bitcoin Act of 2025 gaining traction, support all around the United States currently. Let's take a look at Bitmaster's post today. So M2 updates. We hear a lot about M2 updates and that there's a lot more global liquidity all around the world being injected into the market. Not much has changed. I think an 82-day lag. It is still looking like we bottom blast off on May 21st. So early mid-June, we'll be at 500 plus dollars for MSTR share price. So that's Bitmaster's forecast as we, head into, the next, 10 days, May 21st, we're going to blast off, and then mid early June, we'll be at that plus $500. So a couple weeks away from that. Let's talk about Bitcoin technical analysis before we shift it over to strategy technical analysis. So we're looking at the daily chart candles, in terms of the price, where we currently are hovering, below that $104,000. Definitely opportunity to dollar cost average, especially buying at like that $70,000 range. Even if you're buying at $80,000 range, we're winning because we're taking advantage of this dip. Dips are gifts. Why? Because we know Bitcoin in the long-term scale is just going to keep going up. And I don't think it's going to, come to uh, much longer time where we can actually buy Bitcoin below $100,000. At one point, once governments start buying, country starts buying, it's going to get more and more expensive. I mean, 21 million in the supply. There's going to be a supply shock. That's why it's important to study, embrace Bitcoin, buy what you can, and of course, take this information as investment advice. But current standing with where we are. Key thing is we've hovered past that Ichimoku cloud, which you see this cloud. You want to think of that Ichimoku cloud as, it's key to have the price above the cloud. Anytime when price action is below the cloud, which is what we saw like at the beginning of like February, what happened? Gravitational pull down. That Ichimoku cloud likes to just draw down that price action. In fact, getting it down to like 72,000. As we broke through that 50 to 200 day simple moving average, we hovered bypassed that, that cloud. Now we're like, anti-gravity right now, hovering above the clouds. I do think that somewhere in this quarter, we're looking very close to like $120,000 as we get towards the end of the year. I'm banking on what Tom Lee is forecasting. We may very well get to like plus $200,000 for the price of Bitcoin, which is really less than 1x from where we are right now. So definitely huge upside with Bitcoin. And what does that mean with companies like Strategy? So we're looking at Strategy's technicals on the daily candle. Key thing that we're seeing is relative strength steadily rising. We also see volume picking up. The 50, 200 day moving average, we crossed that, at one point in early April, we crossed the 200-day simple moving average, a week after that. And now we're just consistently hovering up, not too fast, but we're slowly and gradually increasing, getting to that level two prior resistance, have price action hover around that, flip the switch, that'll be the new support level, and come, that, come early June, mid-June, we may very well get to this level three stair climbing back to that all-time high of 550. But let's say as Bitcoin starts climbing up to new all-time high, because strategy is the ultimate hedge towards leveraging Bitcoin, there's a lot more torque and power with the speed of strategies share to to go way further than how Bitcoin goes up. Let's say if Bitcoin goes up 1x, strategy can like double or quadruple that. So as Bitcoin gets to that 200K, we may very well have strategy break through that four digit in the share price. Let's take a look at the weekly candles. So we're seeing consistent green candles. So, the last couple of weeks, we've been just seeing the price of, strategy, go steadily going up on the weekly candle. This is what we want to see. And of course, we're seeing it go up, even though relative strength has been steadily rising, not to that point where it just shoots up very fast, because when it shoots up with the fast velocity, that's when it gets in that overbought situation. So definitely a huge upside where we are. I very well forecast that we may very well retest that all-time high and then start climbing up even further. With all of that, I want to play a quick video clip of Saylor and his assessment with Bitcoin being bought by the big time whales, and that there will be a supply shock that's coming.
Uh, but yeah, because once you get Bitcoin and it clicks in your mind, your immediate reaction is, oh, I got to hurry and buy as much as I can because someone else is going to go take all my Bitcoin away from me. So like in 2020, when I started buying Bitcoin, I was thinking, oh no, I got to do this in a hurry because someone's going to figure it out and the price is going to 10x. And I better get it before it 10x's. So, I mean, that's a natural reaction when it finally clicks in your head, because you're thinking, why wouldn't every billionaire in the world go and buy $1 billion of Bitcoin, smash buy it overnight, and just to make $1 billion? Because why wouldn't they just want to make the $1 billion? Or 5 billion or 10 billion or any amount of money. I mean, Bitcoin, it feels like in the early days, the infinite money glitch, right?
There you heard it from Michael Saylor, in that Bitcoin is an infinite money glitch. The whales are buying. Bitcoin supply shock is coming. So I hope you enjoyed another video here at All I See Is W. Let me know what your predictions are of Bitcoin and strategy. Put it down in the comments. If you're new, I would really appreciate hitting the like, turning on the bell notification for future updates. Stay tuned for more updates, guys. Take care.